Now, to break down some of the highlights of President Duterte's final SONA, joining us tonight, Tony Viña, former Dean of the Ateneo School of Government. Mr. Viña, once again, welcome to The Big Story.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you for inviting me.
Dean Tony, did anything stand out for you, whether it was said or not said?
It was long, that's for sure. No, to be honest, seriously, what stood out for me was the absence of a plan for the pandemic. You, there's a contradiction in saying that we will have no more lockdown. A day after he actually issued a lockdown, essentially a lockdown for the biggest economic region of the Philippines, the NCR Plus area. So for me, that's the big omission. The other highlights are essentially expected: the war against drugs, the corruption, the infrastructure. I kind of expected all of that, and there was a balance there of real achievements, in my view, like in infrastructure, which is I always say this, Aquino's infrastructure achievements were because of GMA, including the economic achievements, and Duterte's also is just a continuation of plans that were already put into motion by Aquino. So, but he should get credit also for that, because he could have stopped that. He could have not built all of those things that they say they were able to build. So let's give him credit for that. But striking to me is a clear admission of the kind of mentality which is being investigated or could be investigated by the International Criminal Court. That's striking to me, that he's still very defiant about that, an admission of, I will kill you, that type of thing. The justification for that, he was saying that there was this long soliloquy, right, about the youth and about the woman being raped and the victims, and you're only thinking of the criminal, but how about that's a justification for the kind of atrocities that we have seen in the war against drugs. So I'm sure the International Criminal Court would cite that if they do decide to move forward.
Okay.
Striking to me is the admission about failure to deal with corruption, and the China thing, that also just a clear admission that he would not be able to stand up for us against China.
Okay. Now, apart from everything that you mentioned, Dean Tony, he did leave some to-do lists, supposedly, for Congress. He wanted the creation of, what would be the equivalent of our CDC. He wanted a department for OFWs. He wanted some legislation, supposedly, to improve investment and trade in the Philippines. On the other hand, people are looking at this as, what does this mean after a SONA would be the character of a presidency? Historically, what happens to the presidency after the final SONA, especially given that the president said, look, this may be my last SONA, but this is not my swan song. What do you read into that, and what historically actually happens to the character of the presidency here in the Philippines?
The legislative ask is not a new one. These are all already in the previous SONAs, and so that there's nothing new about that request. The reality here is that the legislative calendar is very short. So, and it's all going to be about the budget. That's the budget is so important given the election year, that they have to pass that by December, right? So I doubt very much if any of those laws that have been on the table for quite a while would actually be done, unless he actively. If he actively lobbies them, he can get those things done.
Yeah.
The real question is, when he said, "This is not my swan song," I actually thought then it's gonna segue into, I'm running for VP or whatever, right? But thankfully he didn't do that. And so right now, maybe given his own thinking right now. Maybe that the plan of running for vice president is certainly was not pushed in this particular sauna, because
Oh,
this was his last time to have this pulpit, this bully pulpit, and he did not use it to promote that idea that he was going to run again, or that his daughter is going to be president of the Philippines. I
okay.
think in that respect, this was not a very political sauna in the usual sense of you know pushing a successor, doing an endorsement.
Okay.
Although he did pay attention to Bongo, I noticed that he did that, and maybe there's something there.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Dean Tony Laviña, former Dean of the Ateneo School of Government.